I was hired to win. I use whatever resource I have.
This is a film that has many different levels to it. It's chiefly, not surprisingly, given the film's title, a portrait of a very unusual character, let's put it that way.
Don't just waltz into a senator's office and make your case. Find out who they trust, who they can't afford to piss off. Convince that person to make your case. That is how we win.
Very extreme, obsessive, ruthless, merciless political strategist played by Jessica in the midst of a very contentious policy debate. I mean, broadly speaking, that's what it is. It's a very, very, very surprising piece, both in the course of as its narrative unfolds, and I think probably in terms of what people might expect from it. It's a political thriller, I think, is probably the correct way to describe it.
Lobbying is about foresight, about anticipating your opponent's moves and devising countermeasures.
When you take on a role like this, what goes into you forming this fleshed out character of Elizabeth Sloane? She's a top lobbyist, and she finds herself so disillusioned with this mercenary business that she is willing to put her career on the line for something.
Yeah, for every character I play, I'm a crazy researcher. I just Googled and did a lot of research to try to find female lobbyists to speak to. So I went to DC, I met with 11 women, asked them everything, very, very personal questions, observed how they dressed, how they presented themselves to the world. And from there, it really changed any kind of idea that I had just based on the script. I needed to meet actually women that, flesh and blood of people that are actually doing that job and living in that town.
Daniel Posner, head of legal.
Liz Sloane, contemptible liability, and amateur lip reader. Whose idea were the glass walls? Seriously?
I imagined I would play the role with no makeup and wearing the same clothes over and over and over again. And then when I met these women, like 7 of the 11 women were wearing black nail polish. And I thought that's something I'd only associated with like goths and rock and roll. And I thought, well, that's an interesting DC trend for women in a profession where less than 10% of lobbyists in DC are women. And what are they presenting to the world by doing that? So all these little clues you get from the research. Elizabeth Sloane's the kind of woman that you hear her heels walking on the marble corridor before she enters the room, and you're scared. She creates this kind of allure of this world around her that you really don't want to get on her bad side.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest thing you have to be careful of when you've got obviously what must have been a long script to keep it moving, to keep people guessing? Because that's the strength of this movie, is you really don't know what's going to happen next.
It has to do with the speed, really, at which things unfold. She is a character who moves at lightning speed and is ahead of every single thing that's happening in the room. And, the film is constructed in such a way as to stay ahead of the audience and move with her. It's a very, very strong story. Probably you go in expecting one thing, I think you come out finding, wow, that's not what I thought it was at all. That's intrinsic to the material and what the material is about and the way she works. But along the way, there's tremendous kind of density to it. It's a very, very, very smart script about a very intricate and now, of course, incredibly fascinating area.